So, did you succeed? Let's try this together. For this, I will add a store folder here, and in there add an index.js file. I will also already add a modules folder because I will definitely use some modules. Looking at our state here in app view, I think we have three main kinds of state. We have the products, we have the cart. We could also treat products and cart as one state, the shop state, so to say. And we then have is logged in, which is the authentication state. Now there will be different ways of solving this, but I will put is logged in into my root state, so to say, so not into a module, but then I'll work with a products and with a cart module. And therefore in modules, we can create two subfolders, products and cart, and there is nothing wrong with that, but I will use a different approach. I'll instead add a cart.js and a products.js file. That is not what I showed you in the last lectures. I am aware of this, but that's also an alternative. I don't want to split my mutations and so on in separate files here. Instead, I want to have them in one file, but still separate files for different modules. So that's an alternative to having multiple module folders where in every module folder you then have separate actions and mutations files, which you could also do though, just to make this clear. But with all of that, I'm going to npm install Vuex so that we have this available here in this project and bring up the development server thereafter. And in index.js, in the store folder, I will then import create store from Vuex. And then call create store here to create a store, which I then export as a default. This store takes an object, and we're going to configure the store here soon. Since I'm exporting the store, we can already import it in main.js though. Here, import store from store.js. And besides using the router, we will now also use the store. But now back to the store. I mentioned that I want to have some global state, the authentication status, and then module state for my different modules, for products and for the cart. Let's maybe start with products. For that, we're exporting an object in here, which will be our module object, and set up state, which is a method. It returns an object, which defines our state, and in here, I want to have my products array, which currently is in app view. So we can grab this entire array from app view, cut it, and go to products.js and add it here. Products is now this array. In app view, we therefore no longer provide products. And we remove products from the data property. Now for products, I actually have no mutations and actions because we never change products in this example app. Therefore, of course, this is not really state which we need to manage. It's just some static data, which we also could export and import like this. But to practice Vuex, I'll put it into some state, even though that is state which will never change. There is at least one thing which we need though, and that's a getter. Because we shouldn't directly access state, we should use getters for that. So here I'll add a getter, also named products maybe, which gets the local state of this module, and where I then simply return state products, like this. So it's not a super fancy getter, it's not doing a lot of things, but hey, it's better than nothing. That's it for the products module already. So in index.js, where I create the main store, I can import my products module from modules products.js. And then add the modules key here and add, let's say, prods as a namespace if we want to use namespaces later. Otherwise, this is just required technically, but has no effect. and register products module under that namespace. Now currently it is not namespaced. Currently it will be merged globally, so the getter will be available just like that. But I want to make it namespaced so that we also practice this. Therefore we can add namespaced as an option in the exported module object and set this to true. And now prods will be the namespace for this module. Let's continue with the cart. Here in the cart, I of course want to have my cart data, so we can cut this from AppView, but also later the methods that change the cart. So in cart.js in the store modules folder, we export our module object, add our state, and here I return an object which has this cart. And actually, since this is an entire module for just the cart, we can also flatten this and just add items, total, and quantity as separate keys in this overall module state. Now here we will need mutations as well, because in AppView I have two methods for changing the cart: add product to cart and remove product from cart. So I can grab these methods, cut them from AppView, and add them to cart.js here in mutations. But we of course have to tweak those mutations now, because now they don't just get an argument and do something, instead they now need two arguments: the current state, which they should change, and a payload. The payload can then hold all the extra data that might be needed. Here, for example, I expect to get some product data describing the product that should be added to the cart. So to make sure that the rest of the code works, I will add a constant named product data, because that's what's getting used down there, and expect to get that on my payload. Let's say payload.product. We have to provide this payload later, so we can of course expect any data we want. We just have to make sure that this data exists later. And then we have to update the state. So here, for example, it's not this cart items find something, it's state items, because items is now a property in our local state of this module. Here it's also state.items.quantity. Assuming that items in the cart do have a quantity field. And they do, because this is how we add items to a cart. We set up product ID, title, image, price, and quantity for that product in the cart. And this should all continue to work, because this doesn't use the state or anything like that. But then here in the end, we access state items and push our new item. And we access state.quantity and state.total. So the other state properties which we added here. And that's the add product to cart mutation. Now for remove product from cart, we also get a state and a payload. And again, prod ID was received previously as an argument, so I will add a constant prod ID and extract this product ID, let's say, from the payload object. And then again, we search state.items here. And here it's also state.items, and we manipulate state items, state quantity, and state total. Now we got the mutations in place. Now we learned that we shouldn't directly commit mutations from inside components, so I'm going to add some actions as well. And here I'll add a add to cart action and a remove from cart action. And add to cart receives this context and maybe also a payload. And the same here for remove from cart. And in here I then simply commit add product to cart and forward the payload to the mutation. And for the other action, we commit remove product from cart. So that would be context commit remove product from cart and forward the payload And with that, we just have to add some getters now. Getters that allow us to get access to various pieces of information about the card. And here we can get creative. Previously, we shared the overall card, and then in different components, we extracted different features. For example, in the user card page, I extracted the card total like this. In the header, I'm extracting the card quantity here. Now we can define some getters for that in our module. We can have a card items getter, which gives us the overall card items, a card total getter, which gives us the total sum, and a card quantity getter. Or, since this is all in the card module already, just name this items or products or whatever you want, total sum maybe, and quantity. And then here return state, which we get in a getter automatically, state items. Here in total sum, return state total. And here return state quantity. And now we can go to index.js in the store folder, import the card module from /modules card.js, and add this to our modules here as well. And I'm going to namespace this card and save the card module in there. Now with that, we're not done, but we made an important first step. Now let's continue with cleaning up and with using the store in the next lectures.